Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Build Show. We're going to do some testing on this Build Show, specifically for sound attenuation. Now, we're at a job site here where we're just about to hang sheetrock. And on this video, we're going to start here, but we're going to end at another house that's totally finished so we can actually do some sound testing. Today's Build Show, insulation and soundproofing. Let's get going. Okay guys, job site of ours out by the lake, beautiful 2-story house. We're just about to hang our USG sheetrock brand 5/8 drywall, which I'm a big fan of, a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier, a little more mass. And specifically we're doing that for sound attenuation. Everybody likes a quiet house. And at this phase where all the insulation's in place, you're gonna notice the house has a very dead sound. Now I got some guys working downstairs. I got some guys working on the corner, so you're gonna hear some tools in the video. But if I were to go silent for a minute, you'll hear this is a very, very quiet house. Good timing on those guys stopping for a second. The reason being is this Rockwool, this mineral wool insulation, really absorbs sound really well. I actually use that at my podcast studio, on my video studio, because it really deadens the room. And at my podcast studio, I've got concrete floors, I've got a stucco wall on one side, and then I just put filter fabric over this so it could really absorb the sound. But I've heard people comment before, hey, once your USG sheetrock brand is installed, haven't you just negated all that benefit of sound insulation? So just to orient you a little bit, these walls here are exterior walls. Those are 2x6 walls. And here's the reason we did this, because this wall, which separates this kind of family room from this primary bedroom on the other side, is only separated by this 2x4 wall here. And so by filling these cavities with these sound attenuation bats, you'll be surprised, it actually is going to cut down the noise quite a bit from one side of the room to the other, especially with that 5/8 sheetrock installed. So in this room, you can see here, these are exterior walls. And by the way, our ceiling line, we did end up using open cell spray foam in the roof line. I really like how that spray foam sticks to the roof line and allows me, like, look at that big trunk line right there that's running across to supply this slot vent with AC. That's all now below the insulation. I've got 10 inches of open cell foam up there, which meets code for me down here in the south. But what I thought we'd do is, now that you've kind of seen the layout and what we did here, I employed pretty much the same strategy at my house for sound insulation. And I've got the same 5/8 USG sheetrock brand at my house as well. So let's go to my house and let's actually do some sound testing with a sound meter and a really loud stereo. I'll meet you there. Hi friends, welcome back to my house. I built this for my family a couple years ago. I made a ton of videos. I called it the real rebuild. But what I did here, I think could be kind of interesting for you as you think about soundproofing in your homes. Let's go show you the experiment I set up. Okay, so we're in my kitchen. Directly above me is a second story that has my kids' bedrooms. And in terms of construction practice, what you're seeing here is some 3/4 TNG wood. Above that is 5/8 drywall, and then some I-joists. And the I-joists, I use Rockwool's Safe'n'Sound in between those I-joists. And then on top of the I-joist, I use 1 1/8 thick Advantech sheathing or decking for the subfloor. And then you're gonna notice I've got hardwood floors up there. Now all my kids' bedrooms are on this second story of my house. My master bedroom's on the first floor, kind of around the corner. So I was trying to build this house in a way that would be relatively quiet. And you know, the genesis of this video is my wife and I have been kind of lamenting when we call the kids for dinner, I gotta really yell to get them to come down. They don't hear me often the first or second time. Now, that could of course be children's selective hearing. Every parent knows that. But I think a part of it is that my house is really quiet. Now the house under construction we just saw, basically the same as what you're seeing here. All of my interior walls on bathrooms, laundry room, bedrooms, I used Rockwool's Safe'n'Sound bats in between the sheets of drywall. And then the sheetrock that I used here is the same that you saw on the other job. It's the USG sheetrock brand 5/8 gypsum. So everything in the house is all 5/8 everywhere. I set up a little experiment for you. So let's go upstairs. My daughter's bedroom is literally right above us right here. I'll meet you upstairs. Okay, y'all, we're upstairs now. We're right above the kitchen where we were a second ago. I've got a Sonos speaker connected up here to a second phone. This is running royalty-free music, by the way. And let's see, you know, by the way, my talking level, I tend to be a loud talker. My talking's in the 70s, let's say, maybe with a high of 80. Let's see where this music level is. So we're in the 80s, I would say, most of the time. Let's back out, close her door, and see how much we drop with a closed door. Solid core door. Notice the undercut though. I've got at least a 3/4, if not a 1-inch undercut on that door down there. If air can flow through, noise can too. So this is obviously not a noise-proof room. Not a home theater room. About 10 decibels, maybe 15 decibels drop from where we were before. Enough that it would be very annoying if this was my bedroom where I was hanging out here with her playing music at 80 decibels. Let's see what it sounds like downstairs now. That's fascinating. Just moving around the corner here. Let's see what it is here at the bottom of the stairs. I would call that a 35 decibel drop maybe. And it's interesting, you know, this is pretty hard surfaces. I've got wood walls all the way down that could bounce that noise, and yet it's dropped down significantly. Let's walk over to the kitchen now and see where we're at when we get to the kitchen directly below that. And remember, I've got a fair amount of layers of construction. I've got some Rockwool Safe'n'Sound bats. Let's see where we're at now. I'm gonna call that 40 decibels. Really fascinating, isn't it? To see how much that drops, and yet I would say that's still too high. If this was a condo building and I was the floor below, I'd be pounding on the walls. I'd be calling my landlord saying, hey, turn your music down. 40 decibel drop is not enough when it's 80 upstairs and it's 40 down. I would say in order for to truly be a quiet atmosphere, you'd want to see on this meter something like 25 or 30 decibels. I think there's some lessons to be learned here. Number one, I do like, as a general precaution when you build a custom home, to use sound insulation. I do like the Rockwool sound insulation bats on all those interior walls. But what I didn't do was the next level, or maybe 2 more levels above there, which there's several other abatement options I could have done had I wanted that room to be even that much more quiet to the rest of the house. Things like a soundproof door, you know, a door that had weather stripping. I've got a return air and a supply air into that bedroom, so I could weather strip that door. That would make a big difference. Another thing I could do, especially if I'm worried about footfalls or bass, is I could think about isolating the floor to a greater capacity. I could also go to hat channels and another layer of some sheetrock on the ceiling, or maybe 2 layers of sheetrock. I could also go to some other specific products that are made for noise abatement, including some mass-loaded vinyl or some other options. I've done a ton of soundproofing over the years. Check those out on my playlist below. But I think the takeaway here is you got to think about what it is that you're looking to accomplish in your house. And is it just noise abatement in general from your general household? Well, I think my house has turned out to be incredibly quiet. So much so that my wife and I are thinking about adding Alexas to each room so that I could down here say, hey, Alexa, connect all the speakers and tell my kids to come down for dinner. Wouldn't that be really nice to have? Because I'll tell you, I'm absolutely yelling to get them to come down upstairs. They are not hearing me. And I think that shows that this house that was going for a level of more general quietness, I've really achieved that. But think about it. There's a lot of factors involved when it comes to noise. Guys, with that being said, if you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content here every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the Build Show.